Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of Box Office Talk. This is the show where I break down what happened at the box office, see if my predictions for the top 5 are correct, then make predictions for next week's top 5. So let's get right on into it. Last week I predicted that number 1 would be Smile, number 2 would be Don't Worry Darling, number 3 would be Bros, number 4 would be The Woman King, and number 5 would be Avatar. And I got 3 out of 5 of my predictions right. Solid go about this time around. The thing that I got wrong even was one that I was flip-flopping with until making the final prediction. So not too bad. Not too bad a go of it. If you got your predictions right, here's your shout out right now. Unless you didn't get it right, then sorry, better luck next week. Let's go into what actually happened. Number 1 was actually quite more of an achievement than you might think. Number 1 was Smile, making $22 million this weekend. Now, let's just dive right on into it. This is an original horror movie based off of a short film, I believe, from this director, Parker Finn. But still, an original movie, not based on an IP before. It had the highest opening weekend ever for Paramount Players, which is like the joint Paramount Pictures thing that they've had going for like since 2018, 2019, something like that. So just by a couple million, this is the highest opening weekend that company has had, which is great. But going even more into it, this is the 6th number 1 film for Paramount. This is the 6th movie that Paramount has released that has gotten to number 1, right behind Top Gun Maverick's $126 million, Sonic 2's $72 million, The Lost City's $30.4 million, Scream's $30.01 million, and Jackass Forever's $23 million opening. And this is like a million behind that. And in the next day, when we get the more accurate official numbers, this could potentially bump up there. The fact that Paramount has kind of had a great fucking year, and this movie is just another win for that studio. You know what I mean? Already, if you're the studio that has released Top Gun Maverick, you're the winner, right? But you have all these other movies that have done really well in a time where, it's kind of rare to see, like, especially like for a movie like The Lost City, even though it's got 2 big stars in it and it's like a comedy adventure movie, that is still considered a risk these days just because of like the rise of streaming, how much more of those kind of movies that used to do well go to streaming instead. We're going to talk about another movie later on in this video that, is kind of part of a trend where if it went to streaming, it probably would have done really well, but since it went to theaters, it's probably, suffering because of that. But the fact that Paramount now has this movie that was a big risk to put in theaters that has 2 movie stars in it actually did pretty solid. That's incredible, and this is just another addition to that win for Paramount this year. And this is also the 4th highest opening weekend for a horror movie in 2022, so right behind Nope, Scream, and The Black Phone, which is quite incredible to say the least. Now, its budget is $17 million, so domestically it has not crossed over a doubling point of $34 million, but worldwide it has, just by 2. It has already, let me just simplify it. In the worldwide box office, it has already doubled its $17 million budget and will probably, due to word of mouth, continue to grow, similar to what we just got with Barbarian recently. In fact, it'll probably make even more than that. That's fucking incredible, you know what I mean? For a movie that just like literally showed up out of nowhere. I remember seeing the teaser for the very first time in front of like a early Top Gun Maverick screening. I was like, what the fuck is this? I don't know what this is. And just seeing like more marketing for it and seeing what they did to really push this movie out there. And then finally seeing the movie, I guess, I'm sorry, once again, another apology for not putting out a review. I've said so many apologies for that now. But, this is a movie that when I saw it, I was like, this is really fucking good. And a lot of my audience seemed to be really into it too. The cinema score was like a B-, but, audience score on Rotten Tomatoes is like in the 80s. Critic score is kind of up there too. I think this is definitely due to like word of mouth. People are surprised by this thing. People want to talk about it. It's got a gimmick for the marketing, but when you see the movie, it's like, oh wait, this is actually really fucking good. I gotta tell as many people as possible. This is such a huge fucking win. Now let's go on to number 2, Don't Worry Darling. I say that as a transition, but it's not doing horribly, let's talk about it. Okay, it made $7.3 million this weekend. That adds to a domestic total of $32 million, so $3 million away from outgrossing its initial production budget of $35 million. Worldwide, it is sitting at $54 million, so that is like $16 million away from doubling that. I think I even said this on the last video. It'll take a couple weekends, but I think it will for sure double that budget, and potentially, seeing how things go, could triple it. I guess at that point, 35, 70, 105 million. It would need 105 million worldwide, and it kind of has the potential to at least get close or maybe just over that finish line. So maybe they have a chance there. It just grossed $10 million over Booksmart's entire domestic run, so that's a good personal achievement for Olivia Wilde in her directing career. I think just like, it's not doing poorly, but just like, yeah, compare this to Smile, which just came out. On its opening weekend, Don't Worry Darling didn't like make a splash, and people were like, whoa, this is actually really fucking good, let's talk about the stats here. It was kind of like, yeah, it made like $19 million, I guess, you know, whatever. It did somewhat better than we estimated, but not nearly as much as it could have, whatever. And then, you know, now we have this kind of drop off from 19 million to 7 million, and then you just compare that to like Smile, which kind of just rocked right out of the gate, you know what I mean? And also Don't Worry Darling, you know, is associated with a movie studio that is currently fucking crumbling every single fucking day. So it's like, Paramount is in such a great, it's just overall, right? Paramount's just in such a really great fucking place, and Warner Brothers / Don't Worry Darling is kind of like, ugh, you know, Warner Brothers worse, Don't Worry Darling, like, I think I even said this in the last video, if you're just looking at Don't Worry Darling specifically, it's doing alright, but if you're gonna tie it into, like, Warner Brothers only can afford to push this and Black Adam out, and the entire future of that company kind of relies on both of these, maybe more so Black Adam, but, you know, a success with this movie could help too, and it's kind of hard to gauge, you know what I mean, like, is it doing good enough? I don't know, and it's just, it's interesting, you know, because especially Don't Worry Darling has more money attached to it compared to the 17 million budget with Smile to this 35 million one, and Smile is the one now reaping the rewards of kind of pulling back and having some restraint, and not real. And obviously the lead star of Smile is the daughter of Keira Sedgwick and Kevin Bacon. But it's not like a lot of people even, like, know who she is, you know? She's still kind of technically considered, like, kind of a breakout from this movie, you know? They're not going with, like, a lot of name stars. Jesse T. Usher isn't, like, a main character in Smile, but he's, like, the closest you have to, like, a big name. I guess Kal Penn from Harold and Kumar, but supporting roles kind of very quickly, barely in the marketing. So this is a movie that just really won off of its concept and its idea, and then word of mouth. But people weren't going afterwards like, oh my gosh, you're not going to believe who showed up. A-Train from The Boys, or Harold and/or Kumar was in this movie. They're talking about Sosie Bacon. They're talking about now this breakout kind of star in this wild movie that has this crazy concept, but was actually about something more, you know? And I think that excites people a lot more than Don't Worry Darling, people coming out going like, well, it was kind of stupid, high ambitions, you know what I mean? That was like the common thing that people were saying, was like, yeah, it had a lot of ideas and Florence Pugh killed it, but it's just kind of fucking dumb, you know what I mean? So it's just comparing these two is just so fucking funny. At number 3 was The Woman King, making $7 million, adding to a domestic total of $46 million. Worldwide, it is now sitting at $50 million. So it has crossed over its initial production budget number of $50 million worldwide, so that's good start, but it kind of needs to get to 100 million, needs to double that in order to be considered a success, and, you know, according to other industry standards, it needs to make a little bit more than that as well. But if we want to talk about Gina Prince Bythewood's personal filmography, it is now her highest grossing film. It's made $9 million over Secret Life of Bees. Worldwide, it has made $11 million over Secret Life of Bees, so that's good for her. I hope that this, you know, movie gets her to other job opportunities outside of doing The Old Guard for Netflix. Is she doing number 2? I thought she was. I don't know. But I just really hope that she's able to continue to have more theatrical released films and, you know, able to continue to attach herself to other projects that she's personally passionate about. I'm not sure if the box office not getting to 100 million will affect that. I don't know. I'm hearing that this movie might have, like, some potential Oscar chances. I guess we'll see how that goes. I mean, it definitely could, you know, get up there for awards consideration. I'm just, you know, this is like an August, September release, and there's other awards movies that have not even gotten out to the main public yet that people are already talking about from festival stuff. So I see the race being really tight, but maybe that kind of awards talk could potentially boost it up. This is just a wait and see kind of thing. But for that, especially as kind of a longer term, but we'll see. Number 4, though, was Bros. This is the reason why a lot of people got their predictions wrong this weekend. They really thought that Bros was going to do better than what it did. And I tried to warn you guys, you know, I tried to say, like, you know, it's got an uphill battle already, not just from a homophobic crowd out there, but also because a lot of comedies now do better when they go to streaming. We just saw recently Easter Sunday didn't do all that well when it hit theaters. This movie made $4.8 million this weekend. And this is on a budget of $22 million. Now, certainly, I'm not going to rule out the chance that it has some kind of staying power, but the fact that, you know, we're entering spooky season, and I don't think people really want to see comedies, or at least that's not going to be like the main crowd, you know, the people who are going to be like in the middle, like, what do I want to see? What do I want to see? They might lean more so towards the mood of the season, and the season is spooky, so Smile is gonna keep getting more attention probably, and maybe even Don't Worry Darling, maybe Barbarian. Oh, I forgot to mention, or not that I forgot, but like Pearl is like not even in the top 10 this weekend, but maybe even that could get some more audience goers if it's able to still cling around, you know what I mean? Somehow Pearl just dropped dramatically. Crazy, very sad, but yeah, that's all I really have to say. This is the lowest opening weekend for a Nicholas Stoller directed film as well. Like, it's either like 20-ish million or so is kind of like where he averages at as far as the opening weekends, and this was like, single digit, and it's kind of a bummer, you know what I mean? Like, it's a good movie. It's a really good movie. I did what I said I was going to do last weekend. I saw this movie opening night, and I really liked it. The theater was very empty. It was hard to tell if that was because of people scared of a hurricane, because not that we got it really bad, but, you know, I live in Virginia. We were kind of in its path. I guess that could also be it. Maybe low theater turnout because there was a fucking hurricane in some states. But even then, it's like, that could only boost it up so much at that point, you know what I mean? It's just a big bummer. It's a good movie. I hope people see it at some point. Maybe when it does hit streaming, the numbers will go big and people will be like, this is the most watched thing on whatever the fuck it's on right now, or this is the most rented PVOD thing. But as of right now, yeah, $22 million budget. You need to double that, $44 million, and making like almost $5 million isn't really good enough, you know what I mean? Big bummer. It was a good movie, but please check it out if you can. Number 5 is Avatar, still kicking ass. I wanted to mention, last weekend I got a comment saying like, wow, no mention that Avatar is like the number 1 movie on the weekend for worldwide, and that is true. Last weekend when it got re-released, domestically it did not get number 1, but worldwide it made, so combining domestic totals and international markets, it made the most money that weekend, which is pretty fucking impressive to say the least. Obviously, I did not, mention it right then because I solely kind of look at the domestic stuff and then the worldwide kind of comes in later. Like, that was just a fact that kind of slipped, my mind at that point, you know what I mean? Not that I didn't know about it, but it was just like, it was a slip. I'm sorry. I promote this as an amateur box office show, and then people are like, wow, didn't mention the one thing. It's like, I never once tried to say I'm a professional, damn it. Fuck. I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry, I don't mean that. I don't. Maybe I do. I don't know. Fuck it. It made $4.6 million this weekend, though, adding to a domestic total of $779 million. Worldwide, it is now sitting at $2,905 million. That's fucking incredible. You know what I mean? Like, look at how much fucking money this made. Like, there's no way that Avatar just considering it's re-released, and even though, it's not like it's making the kind of money it did back then, obviously it can't, but yeah, I mean, the re-release is still making so much money. Imagine how Way of Water is going to be, you know what I mean? I know a lot of people joke like, what kind of cultural impact did Avatar have? Like, who's going to care about Avatar's sequel these many years later? And it's like, everyone, apparently. It's got, like, so many fucking trailer views. People keep going out to see these re-releases no matter what it is. Like, I remember when it was, like, making money during COVID pandemic, they were re-releasing stuff, and people were like, yeah, I guess I'll go see Avatar again, and it took its title back from Avengers Endgame, you know what I mean? It's like, people care about this fucking sequel. It's gonna do huge. I can't wait to see that. Number 6 we have, and I'm sorry if I mispronounce this, Ponniyin Selvan Part 1. This is the first edition of a 2-part film. I believe it's based off of a book or another material, whatever. It made $4.1 million this weekend on a budget of 500 crore, but this could, I read this on Wikipedia, this could be a budget that is spread out between the 2 movies, so it could be a little lower than that. I know nothing about this thing, but I'm glad that, similar to Brahmastra a couple weeks ago, I'm glad that some people found it and really enjoyed it. Obviously, I think Brahmastra did a little bit better as far as the ranking goes, but, this is probably doing all right too. I have nothing else to add to this. Let's move on to number 7, which is Barbarian, making $2.8 million, adding to a domestic total of $33 million. Worldwide, it is still only like $1 million ahead at $34 million, but that's still fucking great. Budget $4 million, and it's at $34 million right now. It's $6 million away from getting to $40 million, which is like 10 times its original budget, you know what I mean? That's great, Smile is obviously doing great, and I think it's already outgrossed Barbarian's entire worldwide run, like by 2 million, which is fucking crazy, but, that does have a slightly higher budget than Barbarian, and Barbarian, with this limited budget is raking it in like no one's business, so that is pretty swell also. Number 8, we have Bullet Train making $2.4 million, adding to a domestic total of $102 million. It has crossed over $100 million domestically. That's great. It made $2 million over Brad Pitt's movie Seven, that entire domestic run, and it needs $3 million to outgross both Interview with the Vampire and The Lost City, which he had a brief supporting role in that movie earlier this year. That's really fucking cool, you know? I guess the key to having like surprise hits at the box office is Brad Pitt and Sandra Bullock. I guess we need them to be in more films together. Worldwide, it is now sitting at $236 million, and that is $75 million away from outgrossing Ocean's 13's entire worldwide run for the Brad Pitt film ranking. And also, it is about $34 million away from tripling its $90 million budget. Now, whether it gets $34 million dollars or not before it leaves the top 10 or even after that, who's to say? It has been slowing down a bit, and we are about to get a lot more movies in the horror season and the awards kind of circuit season that is going to come in and just completely take over the top 10, and of course the other blockbusters like Avatar, Black Panther. So we'll see if it can somehow scrounge up $34 million and triple that budget. I think it'd be pretty impressive, but already people have already talked enough about how this movie did pretty well, so it's in a good spot. Number 9, DC League of Super Pets, the movie that won't fucking die. It made I would much rather Pearl be in the top 10 instead of DC League of Super Pets still. That's it. That's last time I'm going to mention Pearl. Bummer it's not still here. God damn, at least Dwayne Johnson has that. This movie has stuck around in the top 10 much longer than Pearl, which is a way better movie than most of The Rock's filmography in every single fucking way. It made $1.3 million, adding to a domestic total of $91 million. That's now $14 million away from outgrossing Lego Movie 2 and becoming number 3 spot in the top 3 highest grossing WAG films domestically. Worldwide, it is sitting at $193 million, so not only $7 million away from maybe, potentially getting to $200 million worldwide, finally, but it is $3 million over the worldwide gross for the Lego Movie 2, and needs $20 million more dollars to outgross Smallfoot and enter the top 3 highest grossing WAG films worldwide. I don't think it's getting $20 million. I don't see it, but you know, if I'm holding out hope for Bullet Train to maybe get $34 million, then maybe $20 million isn't that bad, but at the same time, Bullet Train has been doing much better than this, so I don't know. I'm done talking about this movie. Let's move on to something else. The last movie on this list, maybe the last time we talk about this movie in this video series. Kind of a bummer to think about, but here we go. Top Gun Maverick, rounding out the top 10, making $1.2 million, adding to a domestic total of $713 million. That is now $66 million away from outgrossing Avatar's number 4 spot in the all-time highest grossing domestic runs. Obviously, Avatar making more money right now isn't helping. Worldwide, it is sitting at $1,476 million, so $38 million till it outgrosses Furious 7's number 10 spot in the all-time worldwide grosses list. And the fact that, you know, it's about to enter the top 10, and there's still a thought in my mind where it's like, well, maybe, you know what I mean? Like, maybe it could come back. Maybe it could still make this money and outgross Furious 7. You know, that's just a huge testament to how great this movie has been doing. Like, this movie, it came out in May. Yeah, it came out in May, and it has stuck around through June, through July, through August, through September. It is now October 2nd, and it is still technically here in the month of October. That is in-fucking-credible. You know what I mean? That is outstanding. And I'm just so happy that we had a movie that did this fucking good. I legit can't remember really the last time a movie has done this well. You know what I mean? I don't have the stats for Spider-Man No Way Home off the top of my head. I know that, you know, is a high grosser, you know, and probably did stick around in the top 10 a little bit longer. But, you know, I guess it's just been a long time since I've covered it on this series, because I did not cover Spider-Man No Way Home. I haven't done box office talk since early 2020, you know what I mean? It's been so long since I've talked about a movie that has just done this fucking well, you know? It's just such a blast to catch up with this all the time. This is a reason why I'm glad that I brought this series back, because being able to celebrate when a movie does super well and it's super well loved and it's actually a really well made movie too to back that up, that's a fucking gift, man. Now it's time for the fun part, the predictions for next week's top 5. This is going to sound weird, but I'm going to go with Lyle Crocodile as number 1 because it's a family film based off popular kids book series. Shawn Mendes is in it. Some people might see it for the meme. I don't know. I think this might do pretty well. Not great, but just well enough, you know? Number 2, I think, will be Amsterdam, even though David O. Russell is a fucking pedophile, allegedly, even though he admitted to groping his transgender niece. Look into that, please. We need more people talking about that, please. Number 3, I think, will be Smile. Number 4 will be Don't Worry, Darling. And number 5, The Woman King. But what are your predictions for next week's top 5? Leave them in the comments below. And as always, thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe. I'm Jackson Fulcher. See you guys next time.